time to play ball. Welcome to the podcast with no limits. Whether it be sports, current events, or random thoughts, this is the place to step in and stay a while. Your host is a proud alumnus of Rio Hondo Prep, a former minor league baseball umpire, and a man with strong opinions. Welcome to the Get Home Safe podcast and your host, Matt Hersema.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Get Home Safe, a special edition of the podcast as the 4th of July is right around the corner. I know this is coming out on July 1st, the beginning of a new month, of course, but it is the celebration, a weekend long celebration of Independence Day that does come up for us this coming Monday, July 4th. 1776, right, is the day that we remember the Declaration of Independence. Many men lost their lives fighting the Revolutionary War and so many other wars since then for our freedoms, not just for us, but other people around the world. So I thought today we'd have a special episode of the Get Home Safe podcast, bringing on someone who I think just totally sums up America, especially the fighting spirit of America. Someone who's been on the podcast before, almost 2 years to the day, way back in June of 2020, June 26th to be exact. So this is releasing July 1st. So almost just over 2 years ago. And it was one of our most popular episodes. I got to say, it went a long time, but I could ask more questions. There were more questions I had, more topics I had, but we kind of ran out of time. But we'll definitely get to those today. We're going to have back on the podcast today, Mr. Bill Lee. Well, I should say Major Bill Lee from the United States Marine Corps. He has deployed multiple times for the United States. He talked last time about some of his service in deployment and other things that went into him becoming a Marine. He's a Marine for life. So plenty of things to discuss about that. His time here in the reserves the past few years. We'll talk about the Afghanistan withdrawal. We'll talk about America and what it means to Bill and the people he's been around his entire life, the great patriots that do serve the United States military. I'm going to try to really talk all America today. Go back maybe in time to 1776 to when the Marines were formed. We'll talk about Bill's job a few years ago as a bodyguard. He was in security for a lot of celebrities. I don't know how much he'll be able to tell us about all that, but we didn't touch on that last time, so I wanted to this time. And a lot of people know and respect Major Bill Lee. I don't know if his rank has changed, so forgive me if that has changed and I'm just a little slow. But to Major Bill Lee, he was so influential to my brother's class back in 2005 as a football coach, helping them, pushing them really to win that CIF championship, the first 11-man championship in Rio Hondo Prep's history. He's a motivator. He's a hard worker. He currently runs Mount Kare up in Wrightwood, California, which is the summer and winter getaway for a lot of youngsters and families in Kare Youth League. So we'll let him fill you in all about that, the updated amenities there at Mount Kare, and how you can come and pay a visit and also contribute as well. So I don't want to waste any more time on this fine celebration of America. Let's kick it off. Let's not listen to just me, but let's bring on the man of the hour, Major Bill Lee. As I can promise you, this is going to be a very fun conversation and one I've been looking forward to a long time. So happy Independence Day, everybody. I can't think of a better way to start off the long weekend than to kick it off with Major Bill Lee. Okay, joining me once again is Major Bill Lee from the United States Marine Corps. We just had Memorial Day. The 4th of July is fast approaching. So I thought, what better time to have Bill Lee back on the podcast than right leading up to Independence Day. Major Bill Lee, welcome back to the Get Home Safe podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me again. It's hard to believe it's been 2 years.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. June 26th of 2020. And I will tell you, Bill, that was hands down one of the most popular podcasts. I've done over 360 now, and that one still has one of the most plays on there. So a lot of people liked what you had to say.
Well, maybe you were just on your game that day.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've made the rounds now. I went all the Lee brothers, Ken and John, brought them back on this is your second appearance here. So I know you're going to blow those guys out of the water because you're always competing with those Lee brothers, right?
Absolutely. That's a given.
It's been a while since you and I talked, but have you had a chance to listen to your brothers come on here and talk on the podcast? Do you roll your eyes at those guys or what?
No, it's always fun to just listen at a different perspective, because you tend to have good questions and things that maybe I haven't heard, or maybe just I haven't heard in a while. So it's always fun to listen.
Oh man, I appreciate the support. We had your dad on, a year or so ago. That was a blast. Bill, you're up in Wrightwood, California. For those of you who don't know, Mount Kare, you have been in charge up there for quite some time. Before we get into, the patriotic talk and things of that nature, what can you tell me about what it's been like living up at Mount Kare, and what are some of the changes and things you've done up there since you've taken over that maybe people who've been there before would find new and refreshing?
Well, first, I'd like to say that the Parsons have laid down an amazing foundation, not only for the property, but for the business side and everything else. So I walked into a pretty great situation where they have already, like I said, laid down an unbelievable system that I get to walk into. So it makes me look good, but I didn't do any of it. They did. So I want to start off with that. And then my kind of vision is just kind of take what they've already done and just improve on it, if that's even possible. So we've made a couple of hires here locally in Wrightwood, a family here that has kind of come on board with us. And so I think we have the right people at the right time. And so, yeah, we're just the big thing that we've kind of implemented was the family camps. And so we've always done, of course, the kids. And now we have 4 family camps this year where the parents can come up with their children to participate in all the activities and enjoy them with their children. So that's a big change.
Well, people are always looking for a vacation, a place to go. I mean, for us local residents down here in Southern California, Wrightwood's, an hour and a half away, if that, and you can get the whole cabin outdoors experience. For most of us know those cabins well. And how does it all work? Do kind of you give a family of 4 the entire run of the camp, or what?
Yeah, so we've actually done a little renovation on the existing cabins to where we can now compartmentalize them. So we can hold up to 15 separate families that have their own entry, their own 3/4 bath, everything. And so you don't have to share with anybody. So that's been a huge improvement to be able to do that. So that's been really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I got to go up there a few months ago and check it out. It was so cool. Bring me back all these childhood memories. I noticed the mess hall up there, the lodge is renamed after Philip Ostegard, the legendary leader at Rio, who always was playing his harmonica up there. For us kids, the game room and the mess hall was there, obviously. So those were good times. I also noticed that there was a lot of benches around the property that you've put some hard work into. And for a lot of, I guess, donors' names, we'll say. Let me see. Did we lose? Oh, there you are, Bill. Okay. But yeah, a lot of donors and such. Those benches are really impressive. What can you tell the audience about those benches that are around Mount Kare?
Yeah, so that was a project during the time where LA County shut us down when COVID was going on in 2020. And so obviously we needed something to help us. We're still here, so there's still bills to be paid. So we put it out to alumni, to current members, those that wanted to give to help, through that situation. And this bench project came up where we just took trees and logs that were here on the property already, and we turned them into these beautiful benches, and people got to donate and put a bronze plaque on there in memory or in honor of somebody from the past or the present. And so it was a really great project to help us raise money. But I think even more important, it was just a great way to connect people back to the camp. And so now when you come up, you can see, past members or just people that have put time, money, and effort into the camp. And it just creates a great atmosphere, not only to sit on, because now there's these beautiful benches throughout the property, where you can sit and just kind of reflect and pray and things like that. But I think, again, it just ties people back to the place and creates a little bit more ownership, which is a great thing.
Well, I can't think of anything more dangerous to a virus than to be outdoors and enjoy the fresh air and things. I mean, that sounds incredibly dangerous. Thank goodness they closed everything down. No, in all seriousness, ridiculous, of course, but I think it was a great idea because it leaves a legacy if you're honoring or remembering someone, kids or parent, whoever goes through there and can see a name on a bench and be like, who is that? What's their story? So it's something that will last forever and was a great idea. Do you still have, can people still kind of request to have one built for them or no?
So the bench project is pretty much tapped out, only because we have about 40 benches throughout the property. So we still need walking space. We can't put benches everywhere. But there are definitely other ways and other things that we can contribute to. So I have a former member and his wife. Well, they're both former members who right now are contributing to our 1968 Kaiser Jeep that has been up here forever. It's our snow plowing machine. And so they're actually donating their time to help fix that up. We just put some power steering in it, which was needed, and doing some other work on it. So there's always ways for people to come up and contribute and just kind of help keep this place what we'd like it to be.
Absolutely. Is there a website people can learn directly to go to about these projects and things?
So right now our website doesn't have anything like that, but you can always contact me. So the website is just Mount Kare, spelled with a K, .org. And my email is bill@mountkare.org. So you can always just send an email and say, man, I'd love to come up and help, whatever it might be. If you have a passion to build trails or, anything that you have a vision for, I'd love to hear it. Again, I'm just one person, even though I live on site in the resident manager. That doesn't mean this is my camp. It's all of our camps, and it's God's camp. And so we want fresh ideas and new things that would help bring people up to just hear God's still small voice in the mountains and his creation.
Amen to that. It's an incredible place. And if you can't stay for a weekend, I mean, it's worth the day trip. Go up there, walk around, check out Upper Camp, the archery. I mean, Bill's there, and he will be, accessible for so many different things. And for all of us former members, to go back there, you pause, you can't help but reflect on being there as a kid. And Bill, you've done so many things in your life. You went to Rio Hondo Prep, you were in the Marines, you've done security for celebrities and things. But now that this is your home, Mount Kare is your home. And you've always been a guy that just dives into everything with a full head of steam. How do you feel about being there at the sacred ground of Wrightwood and working every day out in the wilderness, basically making that place a better place?
Well, I guess I could describe it as my dream job. It's a job, and this is kind of what I tell people when they talk, when we just have small conversations about work and things like that. So, most people go to a job and there's grumbling and griping and complaining and things like that. My job, everyone comes up here happy. Everyone comes up here, looking to get away, looking to have a good time, looking to seek God here in the mountains. And so the people that I deal with are always in a great mood. So that makes it really easy. But then again, I think I feel this was a call from God for me to be here. And so therefore it doesn't feel like a normal job. There's joy in all the little things. And that might sound weird. So when I go and I have to unclog a toilet, there's joy in that, because that means somebody was here to clog that toilet to get away and enjoy this.
Yeah, that's definitely one way to put it. Definitely got to get back up there. And I just, when I heard you were in charge, Bill, and again, God bless the Parson family for the great work they've done for so long. When I heard you were in charge, I was just like, yep, that's the perfect guy for that job, because he's gonna go all in. And you've already talked about some of the improvements you've made around the camp. So that is really, really awesome. I love what you did with the gun range down south. That was down at the bottom of the mountain. That was pretty neat. And then of course, everything else that's there, game rim, archery, just, oh man. But do you remember your first time going to Mount Kare as a kid?
Yeah, and I always do that as one of my trivia questions to dismiss kids from the table. As I said, when was Mr. Lee's first time? And I usually just have them give me a decade. But yeah, it's hard to believe. 1979. I think I was 5 years old, my first camp up here. So a long time ago.
Wow, that is so cool. And your dad, Mr. John Lee Sr., he comes up and spends some time with the family. He's just all over the Northwest, right? Making rotation between the three sons.
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of going back and forth. So when he's here, he's always helping me with projects. He's amazing. He's 81 now, and he's out there still digging holes with me and stuff like that. And I think his first time up here was in 1956, somewhere in there. I know it was the 50s.
Wow, that is crazy, man.
Pretty amazing. A lot of history. Matter of fact, this year is the 75th anniversary of Kare Youth League, then Boys Christian League, coming up to this area in camp. So 1947 was the first time they used the upper camp.
I think we've talked about it before, but refresh our memory. So how exactly did Kare Youth League take ownership of this Mount Kare property?
So to my understanding was the upper camp, which was called Camp Marion, was rented at first. And again, 1947 was the first time that occurred. And then I believe in the 60s, the Kare Youth League acquired the upper camp first. And then I think it was 1970 where they acquired the lower camp from the Campfire Girls in 1970.
Wow. So been quite some time. Well, it's in good hands, Bill. You're doing great work up there. And yeah, to anyone in the audience, reach out to Bill. He would love to have you up there. And if you go to Mount Kare, I guarantee you'll want to go back very, very soon. Bill, we just had Memorial Day. The 4th of July is fast approaching. We're recording a few weeks before that. And, this is kind of with those two holidays back to back, basically a month apart. It is a time for us to reflect on America, the sacrifice, and just our freedoms. We should do that 365, but unfortunately we get distracted. Right off the bat here, what do those two separate holidays mean to you? And do you feel that they're connected as well?
Well, I know growing up, my family and the community at Kare Youth League Ronald Prep, especially my mom, was always very patriotic. So I always grew up, decorating, singing the songs and things like that. But I think after being in the Marine Corps, obviously it has a whole different effect on me. And I think meaning, especially when you know guys that have given the ultimate sacrifice and aren't coming home, and their families are without their loved ones. And so especially Memorial Day, that just has a really special place in my heart now. And you can maybe hear it in my voice, getting a little shaky because it is a little emotional, when you really realize what people have done. And especially when you go back in history and understand, especially, our founding fathers and what they were willing to give up so that we can have this country that is free, is pretty amazing. And then of course, with 4th of July, Independence Day coming up, I like to call it Independence Day, not 4th of July. That's just a number and a date. So Independence Day coming up obviously has a lot of meaning because that's where it all began. So again, understanding what happened before July 4th, 1776, to me has a lot more meaning than the day itself, understanding the sacrifices that went on before that.
No, it's very well said. And what's interesting to me about, July 4th, 1776 is what people don't realize is that was strictly the Declaration. That was the day the Declaration of Independence was signed. War raged on for, I think, 7 years, 1783, when it all ended. But I always thought, oh yeah, they fought for a few months or whatever. No, this war, this declaration, this need for freedom, it started in 76 and went on along. I've watched so many documentaries and things about the sacrifices that, I don't know, Bill, that I would have the courage really to do what these guys did. Not only sign your name on a piece of paper, but knowing that you're pretty much signing your death certificate, and the people around you for years following this, we're going to suffer death and other, atrocities as well.
Absolutely. And really understanding what the founding fathers, because obviously there was hundreds of thousands of people that sacrificed, but the founding fathers who drafted this document were risking more than most because they were well off. They had everything to gain by not doing this. They had land, they had money, they had influence. And so they were willing to give all that up, not only for themselves, but for the rest of us, and us today included. And so the sacrifices that they were given then are, again, just astounding. And I don't know if anybody that had their wealth today would be willing to give all that up.
That is a brilliant point. I mean, so often we talk about sacrifice, but what are you sacrificing? Not just your life, but everything around you, your family. Obviously, those are the most important things. But yeah, it's something I don't think about that often, that these guys, they did have wealth and could have just stepped aside and let things play out. But you're right. I don't think there's a ton of celebrities or even professional athletes who make a great amount of money who would make that sacrifice. I often think, Bill, to World War II and how so many Major League Baseball players stepped aside and went to the war effort. I can't imagine that happening in today's sports world, but again, that's one man's opinion.
Yeah, and there are a few examples. Pat Tillman was one of those guys that walked away for millions of dollars to serve his country and felt that call. And so there are a few out there that I think would do that, but to have the majority do that, I just don't know if that's even possible anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I remember as a kid, my dad, and I asked him, why do we have fireworks? And he told me, the explosions and the bombs and that went off. It's a way to celebrate those who went through so much. And I remember watching movies and say, hey, how come these guys, they did something, they knew they were going to die. And my dad would just, kind of get emotional and say, well, they did that for you. And I was like, me, they don't even know me. But he said, yeah, they did this for the people that would follow in their footsteps for hundreds of years. How do you explain, Bill, Independence Day to your kids? Your daughters are grown up now, but when they were little, how did you, as a father and a current, still always a Marine, but as a Marine, explain Independence Day to them?
Well, I think the way I explain it is the way I grew up, in understanding that the idea of independence, which is freedom, freedom is not free. And so we're celebrating, yes, the independence and the freedom that we have, but we're also celebrating those that gave everything so that we can have that freedom. And so there's a self-giving, a self-sacrifice that, again, just my opinion, I think that today's society is not teaching. And so today's kids now, are more self-absorbed. And that idea of self-sacrifice, unfortunately, is not being taught in our schools anymore. At least it seems like. And we homeschool our kids, so I have an advantage. I can teach them what I want to teach them. And so they're definitely getting that aspect of history. Again, there's so much sacrifice in history, not just in America, but in the world. You go back to the first century Christians and all the different things that we take for granted now because of what people have done in the past. And so I think we have to look at things not just on our own families, our own self, but those around us, the community, the country that we're in, and even the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Bill, we talked about the founding fathers, and they've been under attack for years about all the horrible things they've done and things. And I look at it this way. I think there's a certain group of people in this country that, they talk about how much they love America, but then they go on and all they do is bash it. And I look at it almost like you're dating someone, and when people ask about the person you're with, all you do is talk negatively about the person you're with. And then it's like, well, all you talk about is the negativity. You never talk about the good things. Maybe there aren't any good things in your eyes, and you're not, and you shouldn't be with them, and you really don't actually like them. And that's how I feel about these people who want to bash America. No, I love this country, but all they do is talk about, how evil it's been in the past, and they never mention all of the good.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think it's because there's an agenda behind it. So I think obviously I could look at my own life, and I think we can all look in the mirror, look at our own, And obviously I could put pages and pages of all the negatives. My kids could do the same. My wife could do the same. However, understanding that we are all born with sin, and, kind of going back to the Christian concept here that, without Christ in our life, there is a lot of negative, and there's going to continue to be a lot of negative. I'm not a perfect person, and I never will be this side of heaven. And so if we want to focus on that, then your life tends to feel negative, where if you focus on the positive and you aspire to be better, then you focus on those things, and it just tends to have a better atmosphere around you. We've all been in companies, businesses, jobs where there's just this negative vibe compared to a positive one, and that's based on those that are leading it. And you can make a change in those areas, whether that's as a father figure in your own home, or a business leader, or a coach, or whatever.
Why is it? I found that it does appear that there's happy people, and then there's people that are just nasty and negative, and they complain about everything. I think there is a correlation there as far as agenda. And I think most people who do appreciate America, they appreciate godly values. They appreciate just the daily life that we live in, that, where we're at. I think they're more successful, although a lot of people with the negativity constantly complaining how awful this place is and we need to change everything. They just seem so angry, and there's like no joy in their life, and they're almost trying to bring everyone else down. I think we've seen a lot of that in the country the past few years.
Yeah, and again, I think just goes back to, I guess, my original theme of just self-sacrifice and self-giving. If I'm constantly thinking about me, then yeah, I can see where things would be very negative. Because if I'm always just thinking about me and things don't go my way, which is more often than not, then I'd be very negative. But if I'm looking outward, looking to help others, those opportunities are endless. And so I think it's more of, you got to look outside of yourself, and there's more joy in looking out for others than looking out for yourself.
Oh yeah. You can't say that enough. I mean, we're in such a me age now, and it's important to be, to have goals and try to be successful, but it's for the people around you. I mean, we live in the selfie, life now. It's like, oh, take a selfie. It's like, wait a minute, why not take a picture with people around you or what you're doing? So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Bill, what have been your favorite Independence Day? Have any stuck out to you over the course of time? I mean, it's a special holiday. Have any, maybe it was on a summer trip somewhere. What is 1 or 2 Independence Days that have really stuck out to you?
Oh boy. I think having been in Washington, D.C. during Independence Day was pretty special. Early on, just the hundreds of, thousands of people gathering in the lawn and in the fireworks, and just being in a place where you can see all the memorials and monuments around you that represents, the entirety of our country's birth. Was pretty special. I think those were pretty special. And then I think, again, just after having served in the Marine Corps for so many years, as I get older, each Independence Day, each Memorial Day seems to have a little bit more meaning. So I guess if you say, what was your favorite or whatever, it'd probably be my last. It's just, everyone gets a little bit more special, has a little bit more meaning. So yeah.
That's a great answer for sure. And, you can't talk about Declaration of Independence in 76 without talking about the United States Marines. You're a very big history buff. You're very proud of the Corps, and take us back to, when the Marine Corps started. I know you're very proud of its birthday every year. So run us back in time a little bit.
So yeah, the Marine Corps has a tradition where we celebrate its birthday every year. It's a pretty big event, the Marine Corps Birthday Ball, when you're active duty, reserve, and serving. So Marine Corps actually was started in a place called Ton Tavern. There's some history there, but basically they were looking at guys that were kind of rough around the edges. Basically, guys that started bar fights. They'd go recruit these guys to join the Marine Corps. So this was the Continental Marines. So this was not the United States yet. This was actually in 1775. And so it was established 2 battalions of Marines. And back then, remember, the Navy had to actually sail the ship. So you had guys running up the sails and all the different outs and ins that had to get that ship to move. And the Marines were the ones that were on the ship to fight. So when you pull up next to another ship or you land at shore, the Marines were the ones that would go and do the fighting. And so that's kind of the beginnings. That's the birthday we celebrate. So that would be, technically, we celebrate that as the United States Marine Corps birthday. However, the Marine Corps has 2 birthdays because, again, that was the Continental Marines. So Congress actually established the United States Marines years later in 1798. And so the Marine Corps kind of has 2 birthdays. So the official United States Marine Corps wasn't until after the Declaration, again, many years after that in 1798. But 1775 is what we celebrate.
Awesome stuff. Is there a specific day?
Yeah, that's it. That's November 10th every year. So that's, again, the day that we go and celebrate with fellow Marines. You got the tradition is one of passing on that baton from the older generation to the younger. So we always cut a cake. The oldest Marine present cuts the cake and gives it to the youngest Marine present as a kind of a symbol of passing on those traditions.
Oh, wow. I love traditions and stuff like that. That always gets, no matter what it is, but the military seems to have quite a bit of them. Bill, if you had to sum it up, I think I've asked you this before, but what, everyone's kind of very proud of their branch of the government or the branch of the military. What is it for you that makes the Marines special and maybe a little different from the other guys outside of, the whole fighting in bars thing in 1775?
I really think it's just the camaraderie, the brotherhood, the traditions. So I can meet a Marine that's 100 years old or 20 years old, and right away there's a connection. We could talk for hours and have similarities that, don't even make sense sometimes. And so I think that's probably the special thing that the Marine Corps has done, whether you call that brainwashing or history or tradition. But there's definitely something special there. Like I meet older veterans all the time and just kind of see them wearing that red foam mesh hat or whatever that says Marines. And so you just walk by and say Semper Fi, and right away it just kind of spurs a conversation and you can talk about things together that most people don't understand. I saw this t-shirt that probably sums it up. And the t-shirt just says, I'm up, he sees me, I'm down. And anybody that's not a Marine has no idea what that means. And I almost bought it just so I could start conversations. But what it is in training, we're training, and you have these little ditties that you say. So as you're training to engage an enemy that's firing at you, and you're bounding with a partner, one shoots, one runs, and then you switch so that you have cover. There's this little ditty that you say, I'm up, he sees me, I'm down. And so as I get up to move towards the enemy, by the time I say that little saying, then I got to get back down. So it's just one of those things that no one else would understand what that means. But if I talk to a fellow Marine, he'd get it. We could talk in acronyms all day. My wife happens all the time where I'm talking to another Marine. After an hour conversation, she's like, I have no idea what you guys were just saying or talking about.
That's fantastic, man. Wow, that's a good one. There's all kinds of little phrases. I mean, you take the motto, the few and the proud, that pretty much sums up what you're talking about with the Marine Corps and the various Marines you've come across. Semper Fi, for those that don't know, Bill, take this moment. What exactly does that mean? You hear that all the time from Marines, Marine to Marine. Explain to the audience what it does mean.
Yeah, so Semper Fi is actually condensed. So it's Semper Fidelis. Semper Fidelis, it's Latin for always faithful. So it's just been shortened to Semper Fi. But yeah, that's the Marine Corps motto. So basically always faithful. And we talk about that throughout our training and years in that not only are we faithful to the Marine Corps, we're faithful to our families, we're faithful to our country, we're faithful to our God. And so that concept of always faithful is one that the Marine Corps has had for many, many years. And again, it's just condensed to that phrase of Semper Fi.
Man, it's great stuff. You take just those two things, the few and the proud and Semper Fi, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's definitely what separates them from anybody else. Bill, let's talk about your service. last time we talked on here, you were still active on the reserve side of things. What is your current interaction or current duty, I guess I'd say, with the Marine Corps?
So yeah, I have officially finished my 20 years of service. I actually did 13 years active duty and then an additional 8 as a reserve. So I will be officially retired as a reserve this coming October 1st of 2022. And so dealing with some of that right now in paperwork and things like that, because there's always paperwork in the Marine Corps. But yeah, so it's just been an amazing journey. Some of it good, obviously some of it difficult, but through it all, my family has gotten stronger because of it, and our faith in God has also grown. And so, yeah, so basically 21 years of total service, but 20 credited towards a retirement.
Were you ready to retire, or was it kind of that magic number, maybe some push from the family? I mean, it's got to be hard. I see, as an example, athletes, it's hard for them to walk away sometimes. Is it hard for you, or is it time and just you kind of look back and you're like, yeah, I've had a good run, but it's time to move on?
It wasn't hard. I think it was just time. That doesn't mean I don't miss some of the things. I think for me, I made that decision, 5-6 years ago. My kids were reaching junior high age, and, having me there, I think was more important than ever. Again, kind of going back to what we were talking about, self-sacrifice and things like that. Family to me is more important. And a huge calling as a father, as a husband. So that was a big part of it. And I think probably the bigger part was just knowing that I think God was just calling me to this job here at Mount Kare. And so that was really the biggest draw. All the other things kind of worked out. Again, I think it was just God's timing. I don't have any regrets about leaving. I don't miss the uniform or anything like that. I just miss the guys. I miss being with the guys. And the weird part is I miss the deployments. That sounds weird to some people probably, but that part of it, of being in a leadership position, and being in a place that, yes, is dangerous, but also a place where you feel that you've been given the tools. And I can credit Care Youth League and Real Prep and all the places I've been, my parents that given me the tools, and God, of course, to be able to lead and do those things in an environment that is difficult. But through all that, I think you have joy, and that's anything in life. Things that are hard that you get through just make you stronger. And so I appreciate those times, and it's been a good run. And yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to hang up the boots, so to speak. And I don't think I'm ready to wear that foam red cap though that says VFW or anything, but
you got time for that.
yeah.
No, I don't want to mess it up. What is that? Because I think I said it one time, and maybe it was you who, it's not retired Marine or former. What's the correct way to say a Marine who is retired?
You can say a retired Marine. Yeah. I mean,
okay.
But
not ex-Marine. I think that's what it was. I said ex-Marine.
Yeah,
it's almost like, whoa.
Yeah. There's no ex-Marine or former Marine. You're always a Marine. You can just be active duty. You can be retired. You can be a civilian now, but you're still a Marine. And that kind of goes back to that. That goes back to that Semper Fi, always faithful. So even when the uniform's off, you're still always faithful, and you still need to carry yourself in the same manner and all those things.
Oh, it's beautiful. That's awesome, man. I mean, hey, God bless you. You've done your service. You've given of yourself for us for so long, to us for so long. And hey, your wife Charlene and your kids. I mean, this is a celebration for them too, because they've sacrificed quite a bit with you being gone as well.
Absolutely. Well, they've sacrificed more than I've sacrificed, definitely. So that doesn't even compare.
Well, Bill, I got to ask, it's just, you mentioned it, you said can't remember the term you said, but you said, you're excited about deployments and that's stuff you would miss. Why? Explain, if you can, why you had those feelings, because I mean, you're going off literally to war. Why is it that you will miss that? Was it about the guys you were with, or the purpose? Why do you have that emotion whenever you deployed?
Well, for me, I think it was, again, going back to the self-sacrifice, knowing that you're there for something bigger than yourself. And I had an opportunity to work with an Iraqi battalion in the civilian population and live there amongst the people. And so, being able to work directly with the indigenous people there and have an influence on individuals, whether it's in their military or just in the population, the sheikhs, the leaders, was very gratifying. And so I think, again, just going back, when you find things that you can serve others, and this was obviously serving in an extreme circumstance, there's just a lot of joy in that. And so even though, yes, there was hardships, there was always joy in it. And so the joy that you're filled with, I think, overpowers the dangers or the difficulties. At least that's how I felt.
Wow. Yeah. You're focused on something else bigger than yourself. That seems to be kind of your theme, Bill. And that anyone who knows you can know that to be true. Bill, you mentioned Iraq a couple of times you went. This last year, unfortunately, we saw a withdrawal from Afghanistan that I know a lot of people, especially military members, were pretty upset about. I don't think you ever went to Afghanistan, but plenty of people who did. What are your thoughts on the Afghanistan withdrawal from last year?
Well, if all I talked about was the withdrawal, that's one thing, because obviously being there as long as we were is a whole different thing. But yeah, I mean, the withdrawal was obviously a horrible thing, the way we did it, and more of what we left. Here we are in America where the Second Amendment and weapons and things are seem to be going the other direction of, we want to get rid of that stuff, confiscate it from law-abiding people, but yet we've left, all this stuff for a regime that we know wants to kill us and we know doesn't like us, but yet we left them the weapons and the capabilities to actually kill us. And that to me, doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand it. And unfortunately, the military, we just do what the politicians say, and it's ran by people in government that a lot of times have never experienced war and things like that. And so there's just a lot of politics involved, and I know that's the case. And that's a hard pill to swallow. And that can be even in combat. There was times where we had our hands tied, where rules of engagement were changed and we weren't allowed to do certain things that put us in very dangerous situations. But again, you have to make those individual decisions yourself. And the more importantly, you got to live with them when you come back and return to civilian life. So to me, I don't have any regrets. There was times where I was ready to disobey orders because I didn't believe in them and I didn't think they were right. And by the grace of God, things came into those situations where I didn't have to make that decision. And so I'm grateful for that, because I don't think I could live with myself if I made or if I followed an order that I didn't believe in.
It's well said. And I know that there were a lot of people there on the ground when that was happening. Again, a lot of military members that did not feel what was happening was right, and they were ordered to do it. And unfortunately, we saw some severe loss of life there in the days of it all wrapping up. And loss of life is never acceptable, but for it to happen, right at the end there as we were withdrawing, was just heartbreaking to me for especially the young men and women. They were so young. I think 4 of them here from Southern California. And that just didn't sit well. I was so angry, and it made me even more angry on top of what we were seeing with, the Great Escape, or whatever you want to call it, from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, it's just very, very tough. Bill, let's kind of, let me ask you a random question here. You mentioned the Bible multiple times, and we've all read a lot of the stories and know the stories, but there's been some great warriors in the Bible. Some that come to mind are Joshua, David, just to name a few. Do you ever look back at the Bible and stories and warriors from the Bible that ever stood out to you as someone who ended up going into combat and things? Who from the Bible are some of your favorite warriors?
Well, growing up, I would say Joshua was my favorite warrior, and probably from that old movie Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston. And I don't know the guy that played Joshua in that, but he was just a guy that I just thought, like, man, that guy's awesome. He's a warrior, he's a leader, and that's interesting because I've actually thought about this a lot and read about this. But here's the amazing part, because yes, those guys were amazing warriors, but if you think about one of Joshua's biggest battles, right, Jericho, what did he do? He didn't do much. God did it all. The walls came down not because of how great of a warrior he was, because he had faith in God and allowed God to win the battles for him. And so that's been a big key in my military life, but also just in my life in general, is that, okay, yeah, there's battles, whether they're physical or mental or spiritual, and God has to be the one that is going to bring us victory in those.
Yeah. Gideon comes to mind, with 300. And again, similar to Joshua, it was like, we have too many people. We need this to be given for the glory of God. Now, in theory, that sounds cool. But I mean, if you're on the ground like you are, no, we need less guys to accomplish this. I mean, that doesn't sound logical, but it isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit different because, God spoke directly to them then, where, now it's a little bit different where we're getting his word through the word, scripture, the Bible, and prayer and stuff like that. So, yeah. But if I knew I heard God's voice and said, yeah, you can do this with 300 people, that'd be tough to have the faith to go, okay, yeah, when I'm facing thousands.
Yeah. Oh no. And Joshua led the Israelites into the promised land, but in Jericho was the famous battle. One of my favorite stories though is Ai, and how they went in, they got beat, found out why they got beat. And then the second time, Joshua being super tactical, he goes in, they withdraw, they get pursued. Other half of his army goes in, destroys the city, and then comes at him from behind. And it was like, that was one of the first stories. I was like, oh man, that was like, okay, I see. That's being a true general, having a plan and executing.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually had some tactics there.
Yeah, definitely. One of that, just from the good book way back when. Bill, we talked 2 years ago and didn't get to touch on this aspect of your life. I don't know how much of it you can share with us, but some of the fans were like, hey, we didn't hear about Bill's work in security, working as a bodyguard. What was it what was some of the work you did? For how long did you do it? And how did you get into it?
Okay, so that was a company that did executive security. So yeah, basically bodyguarding for the uber rich. And yeah, it was interesting how I got the job. So when I came off of active duty the first time in the Marine Corps in early 2005, late 2004, I had just finished a year of being a hand-to-hand combat instructor. And so I had this energy, I guess, that was just kind of bubbling up inside of me, and just to turn it off was very difficult. So the work that I was looking to do, I was coaching again at Youth League, but the job that I was looking to do, it was something that was a little more, I guess, intense, or to keep that fire alive. And so I went down to Los Angeles to get a guard card, as well as get certified in weapons handling in LA County. And when I shot at the range, just because of my Marine Corps shooting and things like that, I shot on this range. They had a course, and I aced it. And so the guy that was running the course, I think, was a retired LAPD, like 40 years on the force. And he comes up to me. He's like, hey, who are you trying to work for? I said, I don't really have any idea yet. I just got a couple of places I'm calling. He's like, I got a company that might want you. So he gives me this card. It was very, if you ever seen the movie like Men in Black, this is kind of how I tell the story. It's kind of weird. It was like a black card with a name and a number. To make a long story short, I contact the number. I go down to LA and interview in this nondescript building. Very secretive. End up getting the job with multiple guys that they brought on. And then from there was a weeding out process. So it was physical fitness, it was mental, there was polygraphs, there was all kinds of stuff that they did. And then it weeded it down to just a handful of guys. And then we got hired onto this job. And again, it was executive protection. And a lot of it was, on site with really high-tech equipment, monitoring, hearing devices, different things on, huge properties, which I didn't really enjoy. So I got involved with what they call details, where you go out with people, and then you usually have 2 agents on a person, and then you basically, we're in charge of protecting them. And so that was what I got involved with. It was very demanding. I was gone a lot. So I was, in Manhattan, I was in San Francisco, I was in London, I was in Cannes, France. So I was different places across the world. And to be honest, I quit the job after 9 months because it was more demanding than the Marine Corps. And the reason I got out of the Marine Corps was to spend more time with my family.
Yeah. It sounds like you were in a lot of big cities, a lot of travel, of course. And one thing I've learned from some other guys who work kind of private security is like, when they need you, they need you. It doesn't matter if it's Christmas Day or what, if the person who needs the security, if they're moving or doing something, you got to drop what you're doing and be there. So was that kind of the experience?
Yeah, that was actually how I ended up quitting the job. It was kind of a last straw thing where it was, you have your bags packed by the door, kind of ready to go on call. And I was actually had a couple of days off, and I was going to take my wife to something really special. And we were actually on our way driving to the events. And I got the call that I needed to come in. And that was kind of it. I'm like, okay, this isn't working out. And so that was kind of the last straw when I ended up finally calling them and saying, this isn't going to work.
How was your experience, at least with the people you were helping protect? Were most of them pretty cool? Did they learn your name? I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, and the story that I tell, so one of the guys, again, most of our protective stuff was paid for by the corporations, so like Sony Pictures and things like that. So it wasn't always necessarily by the individuals we were protecting. And so, if it was a film that was being promoted around the world, it was usually the picture company that would have us come, the agents, to protect the movie stars, but also just the whole entourage. But one of the people that were a part of that was Tom Hanks, and obviously he's probably the most well-known of a lot of celebrities, and had a pretty good experience with him, where I was at one of the homes where they're doing film premieres and things, and he drives up, and this is when the Prius car first came out, and he was like super excited about this new electric car, and so I come up, and I got the earpiece in with the suit on, and I walk over and, to get him out of the car and bring him into the house. And he's telling me all about this car, and it's just really funny. And anyway, so we're just having small talk, and, he learns my name. And then several months later, I run into him again, and he comes up and he's like, "Hey, Bill, how's it going?" And he starts talking about stuff that we had talked about. And this guy probably sees thousands of people a day. So for me, it was just very impressive, his photographic memory, I guess, of remembering me and actually showing an interest and like asking me how things were going. So he's probably one of the coolest guys. Not keen on a lot of his political views and things like that, but just as far as his mind, he was very sharp, very smart guy.
That's cool. That's really cool. A lot of times I've seen or talked to other guys who are just like, you're guarding a door or whatever. And like, some people just act like you're not even there, but it's really cool to hear somebody that a lot more interactive and does appreciate what you do. You're not just a piece of furniture or something, that you are a person. So a great story there. Is there any other stories you can tell us about your experiences there? One or two, maybe?
Yeah. And I think, for us, we're not the doorman, we're not the cook or the chef, we're protecting their lives. And so there's a little bit more interest in us probably than some of the other servers that they're around. Sure. But yeah, they get to know you because you're, again, one agent was always, if they're in public, and depending on what they're looking for, one agent's always within arm's reach, where the other one's kind of back and can kind of see the whole picture. And so you do get to know them at a more personal level. You're in their homes, you see them without the makeup, without the I guess the workouts to get them in the shape they're supposed to be for a movie or a photo shoot. So you see them in their environment, and so they get to know you. And a lot of times when they're requesting agents, they'll request you by name because they know you. So it'd be like, oh, I'm going to be doing this film premiere or whatever. I want, Agent Lee and Agent so-and-so to be my detail of this night, because they get to know you. And so there is a lot of personality part of that. So when we went to Cannes, France for the film festival, and that was for the Da Vinci Code that, Tom Hanks was involved in, there's a lot of controversy with that. So there's a lot of security concerns. And so we went there, started out in London, and then we moved to France. That was a lot of work. Those were 15-hour days pretty much for us. It was enjoyable just because there was just a lot of moving parts, and there was actual real security concerns. And so that's where I really, I guess my current state of just being in public now and the paranoia that my wife says I have is probably based on that job more than the Marine Corps. So, you see things that you wouldn't normally, because you're always just aware of your surroundings and picking up little things and little anomalies, we call them, that maybe don't make sense. And so you tend to get involved in things that maybe your wife doesn't want you to.
Yeah, I could, I think we had dinner and she was talking about your experience with TSA. Listen, you're never shy. I'll tell you that. You're always willing to engage somebody.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily proud of those stories, but yeah, I think maybe it helped our security situation at TSA to let them aware of what I was seeing.
You are a man who is aware of everything going on around you, Bill. That is fantastic. Well, those celebrities and such were in great hands. It sounds at least like you got to go to some places you haven't been, or got to have some stories and experiences, and it all has an end date, which is fine. Bill, there's a big movie out right now, Top Gun Maverick. I want to ask, there seems to be a lot of energy into it because it's not super woke and it's pro-American. What a concept. As someone who's served in the military, you've deployed. I don't know if I want to say your favorite movies, but if they are, that's fine. What are some movies that depict the military that you find at least the most accurate? I know they take liberties and things, but what are some movies that you've seen and we've seen that are kind of like, okay, they got that part right, or most of it right anyway?
Well, I think most people would say this as well. Saving Private Ryan, I think, was depicting not only of the horrors of war, but I think just the individuals and their mindset. So you had the guys that were the infantry guys, right, as they're moving through, and then you kind of had the one guy who was more of a correspondent, had a typewriter and different things like that. So that kind of portrayed a lot of how the military is, because you do have that mindset where the guys on the ground have a different mindset than the guys that are in the support roles, and that's not necessarily a good thing, because there's bantering back and forth and things like that. I think that's changed a little bit. I know the Marine Corps is a little bit different because everyone's a rifleman. Everyone, whether you're a cook or an infantry guy, you're expected to shoot and do what you need to do if the time comes. But I think just the mental aspects of these guys at night when they're sitting around talking, whether it's about home or their mom or their wives or different things. A lot of the time that stuff's kind of private, but there are moments when that comes out to just try to ground you. And I think the more of that happened, I think the tighter the unit got. I know Vietnam struggled with this. Guys didn't really want to know anybody else, and so therefore I think there was a lot of issues. The more you get intimately involved in your men's lives, I think the better camaraderie you have, and I think the more effective you are in combat, because you're willing to give your life for the brother next to you, where the other scenario, you might not be willing to do that.
Yeah, that's That's interesting. I mean, you hear that term all the time, band of brothers, brother to brother. But you're telling me there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, getting to know, because it's a fine line, isn't it? Getting to know someone super well, and then the next day, unfortunately, their life is taken, versus not knowing someone at all, and you're supposed to put your life on the line for them. It seems like kind of a fine balance, at least as you just mentioned.
Right. And yeah, I mean, obviously, if something were to happen to somebody, that makes it even more hard, once you've gotten to know them and you become that band of brothers. But again, becoming that band of brothers is your most effective tool in winning the engagements and winning the battles. Because without that, I'm not as willing, and I'll admit it, the security job I had or other things that I think about, am I really going to jump in front of a bullet for this celebrity who's paying me probably more than I'm worth, versus jump in front of something for one of the guys that I went to combat with, where I know his family, I know his children, I'm intimately involved in his life. It's just a different scenario, and you're more willing to do that. Again, a lot of this is going to be subconscious, but that subconscious is built through those relationships, and you can see that with your family, whether it's your brother, your mom, your dad, your wife, your children. Obviously, you're more invested in them emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So you're going to have a greater impact when it comes to something that might be dangerous for yourself.
What was there a movie or a speech or something that was kind of the ignition for you of saying, I am going all in, I'm going to join the United States Marine Corps?
I don't think there was necessarily a movie. I think it was just growing up in the 80s. The 80s was very patriotic. Obviously, lots of movies in the 80s that were patriotic in that way. Proud to be American, proud to serve, and those things. And so I can't really point to one, but it was just something that I always had in my heart growing up, that I wanted to serve in some way for my country. And so I think that's where it came from. And then it just kind of drew to the Marine Corps because of, again, and maybe I know watching a movie called The Sands of Iwo Jima with my dad, with John Wayne. I know it was a movie that I've always loved, even though that wasn't the Marine Corps. But just, that was Green Beret, I believe. And so more of looking at the elite side of things, just again, nothing against the basic soldier or whatever, but I wanted to do something that was a little more, I guess, intense or whatever. And that's just kind of how I've always been. So yeah, I can't point to one.
Do you feel in some ways the past couple of years, like maybe the military is lowering their standards? And if so, why? Is it not that, do we not have enough of a volunteer force? Or, I mean, can you pinpoint it, or am I just imagining that? It sure seems like there's been a lowering of standards recently.
Well, I can tell you that it's not from the bottom up, it's from the top down, unfortunately. So I think your basic ground level, infantryman in the Marine Corps has not changed a whole lot. Unfortunately, it's the generals at the top that are positioning themselves to be, the next board member on Lockheed Martin, or the next board member on whatever. And again, there's obviously some that are not like that, generalizing, but there's definitely a lot of politics once you get to the general level. I've seen it personally, even down at the lower level, like colonel and lieutenant colonel. I've experienced that myself. That's why I'm still majorly, not lieutenant colonelly, because I'm not willing to, kiss up to somebody in order to get promoted. And unfortunately, that happens. It happens a lot. It happens in every industry, not just the Marine Corps or the military, but any big business. When you move up to those levels, there's definitely politics involved. There's rubbing elbows with the right people. There's all those things that get involved. And unfortunately, a lot of our generals have succumbed to that wokeness that a lot of our congressional members are doing as well. And so again, it's the top down. And I think as long as the lower level Marine does not, and not just Marine, but military does not allow that. And I know this lieutenant colonel that was in the news, all last year for the Marine Corps. for stepping up and saying these things. I appreciated that. And I think we need more of that, unfortunately.
Well, and to your point from earlier, when you're in a combat situation, I don't think you look to your left and you're hoping that the guy next to you, girl, whoever is checks some kind of box from this is from demands or whatever. You don't care about the background of somebody. You care about their family and such, as you mentioned, but you don't care about where they're from, what God they worship, what they look like. They're your brother in a combat situation. And I feel like, of all things, the military is something where there shouldn't be this check boxes to check, or these lowering of standards so that you get more of somebody in. If I'm pulled out of a burning building, Bill, I don't care who the firefighter is, where they're from, who they worship. I just care that they can drag me out of the burning building alive.
Right. Yeah. You don't want someone coming in because of some political reason coming in to save you. They can't, because they physically can't. However, they check the box of something else that has made it more equal, or equity is a new term now. So yeah, the military is definitely, unfortunately, kind of moving in that direction where, I want the best of the best. I don't want equity. I want the best person for the job. I mean, people use the airplane pilot all the time, right? Okay, so do we need to have so many of this, so many of that as airplane pilots? No, I want the best, because I want to be able to take off and land.
Yeah, we've gotten so far away from I think, equality is something. Everyone has an equal opportunity to do whatever they want. But when we try to control what the results are, I mean, we're just watering down the institution, which unfortunately I've seen. I never thought the military would be touched by these things, but it does seem to be that way. And I ask myself, why would you want to water, of all things, the United States military? Is it just, it's not just an unpatriotic thing. It feels like there's bigger things at work here. Like, for instance, masculinity. Oh my goodness. You can't even say masculine anymore, or be a man and stuff like that. I mean, and we're seeing the results of these things, Bill, at least from my standpoint. You're a guy who's always been, rough and tough, masculine. Hey, don't cry, toughen up. I mean, are you seeing the things I'm seeing in the world these days?
Yes. And I think the masculinity thing is a good point. And I think the biggest aspect of masculinity that is not talked about, again, kind of going back to growing up in the 80s with the Clint Eastwoods and the John Waynes, and that's all great, but that's not the totality of what it means to be masculine. I think really masculinity is, a man who can love, and love is going to self-sacrifice. And there's incidents just this week, where a lady on the subway is getting dragged around by her hair, and there's guys on the video in the subway just sitting there doing nothing. Like, I don't understand that. It just blows my mind that, here's a woman being drugged around like a caveman, and men are sitting there watching it. It doesn't make sense to me why something like that would happen. So masculinity is love, and love is going to self-sacrifice. It's going to protect. It's going to serve. It's going to provide. And so, obviously we're talking about men, in a family setting. Those are all the aspects that I would expect, and I have 2 girls. And so I would hope that one day they find a man that has those qualities, because if he doesn't, then sorry, he's not getting my blessings.
Love it, Bill. I've looked a long time for an answer to the whole, a good answer to the masculinity issue. We'll say, I think you summed it up perfect. I've never thought of it's actually the exact opposite of what the negative approach is. Oh, masculinity, that's just about sticking your chest out and the good old boys and stuff. No, it is founded in love, because you don't run towards a machine gun just because you're trying to be tough. You're doing that because you love the people around you and the people you're trying to protect. So my mind is just blown by your explanation there. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Bill. Masculine, I know we could talk about you're an outdoorsman. You've been in combat. You're doing the Lord's work there in Wrightwood, man. Any future plans here upcoming for maybe a summer vacation with the family, or just more improvements there at Mount Kare?
Yeah, so I kind of have to be forced to take vacations, to be honest. So I'm thankful for my wife. Now we usually get together with my extended family. So I grew up with two brothers, my older brother, John, my younger brother, Ken. So we're all getting together in end of August. We usually try to get together once a year. Again, our family is pretty close, pretty tight. And so this is important to us to really all come together. So my dad just turned 81. So we're going to be celebrating that when we get together. The kids are growing up. So I got one of my nephews already in college. Other ones are getting older. My kids are going to be 17 and 15 here. And so the more that we can do this before they're kind of all off to the winds doing their own lives, we want to do that. And we think it's important. So, and again, kind of going back to masculinity, my dad, I think in my mind is one of the great examples of that. He's kind of a strong, silent type, but definitely has the characteristic that I most admire. And that's the love, love of his family, love of others, and just self-sacrificing his whole life. So.
Definitely. And you know what, Bill, when the kids are getting older, you know what that means for you and John and Ken also, right? Like, you guys aren't staying at one age. Also, you guys are climbing the ladder as well, man.
Yeah. Those are some realities that are definitely catching up to me now. 20 years in the Marine Corps comes with some physical elements that it brings. And so, but I'm thankful that at least I have all my parts and pieces, and God willing, we'll be able to keep doing this work here until he calls me somewhere else.
Amen, man. What is a place for you, not vacation wise with family, but you, like I said, you're always running. You seem like an up early, work all day kind of guy. What's an activity, a hobby? Maybe it's just a devotion or whatever that gives you a moment to what brings you down for at least for, I don't know, 20 minutes or something that you can just be like, get at peace a little bit and just kind of calm your not your nerves, but calm your body, is there anything that's kind of like an escape for you daily or monthly or something?
Yeah, it's interesting because my escape is my work, to be honest. I actually love what I do. But I think for me, there definitely are times where I just need to like be quiet and still. And those are usually times when it's usually my daughters actually. And so, I'll just go into their bedroom or whatever at night and just kind of lay next to them, and we'll just talk for a little bit. They'll tell me about their day or things they're dealing with. And it's just, it could be 10 minutes, it could be 30. And it's just a time where, we can kind of just reflect and relax. And so I think those private times with family, where there's nothing that we're trying to do or accomplish, we're just simply just talking and having conversations, are special to me.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, Bill, as we wrap up here, again, 4th of July or Independence Day, as it should be called, here in 2022. Final thoughts, what Independence Day means to you, and just kind of a final message to the listeners out there about ways to really always honor Independence Day and Memorial Day that just occurred.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is just having, if you're a school teacher or a parent or whatever, is just sitting down and talking about what it means and the history. There's so many people that have no idea what Independence Day is or, was. I know Memorial Day, I was watching this thing where a guy's interviewing people and he's kind of making things up about what Memorial Day isn't. And people are like, oh yeah, that's great. We're celebrating the Wright brothers today. That's wonderful. And they have no idea what Memorial Day was. And it's unfortunate because we're not teaching it. So I think the best way that you can honor those, whether it was Memorial Day or, Independence Day coming up to celebrate, is just teach and teach the young people what this means and why we have what we have and the sacrifices that people were willing to give so that we can celebrate, we can go to church, we can do all these things without the government, forcing us not to, or, having to hide in caves or whatever it might be. And so to me, it's just educating those around us so that they understand what it is that we're celebrating. It's just not a time to barbecue or whatever.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Bill Lee, thank you so much for your service, for the sacrifices, not just you, but your family, and for coming on here on the podcast. And of course, the great work you're doing up in Mount Kare. I look forward to having you back on the podcast very, very soon. Major Bill Lee, I salute you, sir. Happy Independence Day. And thanks so much for coming on the Get Home Safe podcast.
Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate it. Take care, everybody.
Major Bill Lee on the Get Home Safe podcast. Once again, I can promise you this, it will not be his final appearance. We will probably have him back on here annually, maybe every 4th of July, or excuse me, Independence Day. How dare I? Independence Day, indeed. I think it's very fitting to have him on this time of year. And so, yeah, we're going to bring him back, I think, not let 2 years go by between us talking. So Bill Lee, God bless you. Can't thank you enough for your service. And it's so great to hear your influence that, those who've come before you have provided upon you. And just, I can't say thank you enough for so many of the things you've done. So guys, this is what we're talking about. The Get Home Safe podcast. This isn't just about sports or current events. This is about history and the people that have come before us that have made our country great. And yes, it is a great country. There's no better place in the world to live. That's why so many people want to come here, because it has freedom. At least for now, we're fighting the good fight still here on the podcast and around the country. But in all seriousness, Declaration of Independence, 1776, July 4th, it's always important to remember that date and to honor it, respect it, embrace the freedoms we have. So many people just go about life like, oh, it's no big deal. No, we need to honor those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for us and show respect to this great country that we are so fortunate to live in. And it's a courtesy of so many men and women like the great Bill Lee, who was on here today. Humble as always, but someone that we can always look back on and just appreciate. And I hope you guys do get a chance to get up to Mount Kare and check out the great work he's doing. I promise you'll want to go back immediately and you will have a great time. Guys, that wraps up this week of episodes on the Get Home Safe podcast. This month that has quickly flown by here on July 1st, our July 4th Independence Day episode. We'll be out on July 1st here. But it's been a busy month for me, recording quite a bit with guests and things. I recorded even today. It was multiple interviews I did. So I stockpile them and release them weekly. But for now, I'm not sure if I'm taking a break yet after Independence Day to kind of build up some stamina for the Charge to Keep podcast that I am doing currently in support of Rio Hondo Prep Football and Rio Hondo Prep Athletics. So that's going to take a lot of my time here, August through November. And so I may step away from the interviews here on the Get Home Safe podcast on Fridays, at least for now, just take a break. And what better way to take a breath than after a great conversation with Major Bill Lee. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one as much as the first episode with him way back June 26th of 2020. Definitely go back and check that out if you haven't heard, or if you want to re-listen. It was one of our most popular episodes. So we'll have Bill Lee back on in probably less than a year, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Have a great weekend, everybody. God bless America. God bless the men and women like Bill Lee who have served and paved the way for our success and freedoms. Have a great time. Overindulge, eat, drink, be merry, enjoy the pool, enjoy the barbecue, enjoy the fireworks. But please remember that all of this is for a reason. All of this is courtesy of those who have paved the way for us. So God bless America, everybody. USA. Be proud of that red, white, and blue. 365 days a year. Don't be an America basher. We live in the greatest country in the world, and we need to honor and respect that every day, but especially on Independence Day. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy. God bless America. And guys, as always, no matter what you're doing, whether you're out on the town or rounding third base, get home safe.